I'm really curious. You ran for president in 2016. Not many people may not be familiar with that campaign, but as a 15-year-old, I actually remember that campaign. I was watching ABC News. I think you appeared on George Stephanopoulos' show to announce your candidacy. And I was fascinated by an academic professor, right, stepping in to the world of politics. I mean, I think you raised over $1 million within the first 30 days. And there's a lot to be said how the Democratic Party basically prevented you, right, from getting on the debate stage. What did you learn about politics during that process? I mean, there's only a handful of people who've ever run for president, so I might imagine that it was quite a journey. So walk us through that for a little bit if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to become a candidate mainly so that the issue of corruption would be right on the stage in the Democratic debates. And, at the very end, when I was going to qualify for the debates, they changed the rules so that I wouldn't qualify. And they said, basically, you're never going to be allowed on stage. So I had to stop at that point. I wasn't going to ask people to give money for a purely vanity effort. But what I learned is politics has the best of times and the worst of times. The worst of times was, sitting in a cable news room in New York, which I spent an enormous amount of my time trying to do that because obviously being a completely unknown, the only way to qualify for the debates was to spend all my time trying to get television time. The best of times was actually in the field, like in New Hampshire and in Iowa, which were the two places I was campaigning, and just talking to people because people, the democratic process, at least in those states, because they're early primary states, brings out the best in people. They really understand. They don't necessarily agree, but they understand. And when I think about like what makes me hopeful, I'm brought back. So when I was your age, I traveled to the Soviet Union, then the Soviet Union, and was on a train to St. Petersburg. And this English-speaking professor came up to me and we were talking. And he said, we have a better system of free speech in Soviet Union than you do in the United States. And I said, what could you possibly mean by that? And he said, well, you wake up in the morning and you read the New York Times or the Washington Post and you think you know the truth. We wake up in the morning and we read our newspaper and we know every one of them is lying to us. And so what we have to do is we have to triangulate. We have to read 7 or 8 newspapers and we triangulate to figure out the truth. And that process makes us really critical and aware and much more sophisticated about what's going on in the world than you guys, because you guys think you know the truth just because you read it in the New York Times. And I think this dynamic is what we're seeing, especially across the generations in the internet right now. Like my dad, God bless him, he died a year ago, but my dad, when Barack Obama was running for president, would send me urgent emails all the time. Barack Obama's a Muslim. And I would say, Dad, why do you think that? He said, because I got an email. It told me Barack Obama was a Muslim. And for my dad, this was like formal speech. It was like an email. It looked very official. It told him something. It was like reading it in the Wall Street Journal. But you guys, you get stuff all the time. And what it means to be critical, to think about, do I really believe this? Is this really true? Let me look in 3 other places, or let me look at the Reddit thread and what people are saying in response to it, or whether it gets upvoted or downvoted. And you've developed a critical response. That's the only hope. It's, we're kind of in the Soviet Union with respect to truth. And we need a generation that knows how to think critically about it, because God knows my generation and older, we're pretty hopeless when it comes to this capacity. And but you'll rule, not soon enough, but eventually.